do, just make sure I've got the correct expansion around the hatch, and I'm going to strap this into position. Just use a bit of masking tape. Not going to put any pressure on this side, make sure I've got a good hold on it. Once that's stabilised that side, again make sure that's right on there. I can now take some tape, put some tension across, and that should hold that tightly in position. So the main field of the floor is what needs to really expand and contract. To take an offcut of the transition, I've got the fixing tape on the back. I want that tape to be on the hatch side, just so it covers over that expansion gap. So I want to basically create a square around this hatch and then get that fixed on. So to do that, I'm going to take some masking tape, run that down the sides. This just allows me to get a crisp line on there. So I'm going to take the offcut and just mark that on the surface, just where the edge of that tape is. Put the full tape on the hatch itself. I'll get that lined up. I just put a mark onto the masking tape, and then again the same this side. Connect those up. So that first line is quite important. That becomes my datum line. I now take the transition again, just mark on making sure I've got the full tape on the hatch, and then using square, get that up against this line, I'm just going to make sure it's still falling where I need it to. And go around the perimeter of the hatch. So these corners is where my 45 is going to fall in. It's going to cover over that expansion gap nicely. Plenty of room to allow this floor to expand and contract. With the hatch itself, this one's on a floating floor, so I'm actually leaving the hatch floating, but it can also be fixed to the hatch surface if need be. If it is fixed to the hatch surface, then you will need to put some sort of handle in there to allow you to pull it back out again. So the first one, again making sure the tape is on the hatch side. I've got the lines already there, allowing me to place that in position. So we'll take a bit of masking tape. Masking tape allows me to get a more definite line on there, especially with the black trim. It's difficult to see a pencil or a pen mark. So making sure I've got excess over the ends. I'm not looking at the tape, I'm looking more along the edge of the trim to line this up. And then mark that that cross point. The same this side. Then make sure the saw blade's right up against the edge. You can get a slight bit of burring on the edge. Just with a file. Take that off. So there's the first one. So what I could do now, I can actually get that fixed in position. So remove the backing tape, get the corner lined up, and make sure you're still along that datum line. And then I'll just replace the tape to lock that in position again. And then it's just a case of working around each edge. Once you cut your miters down, just marry them up. Check your miter and make sure you're still running along the line. And then once you're happy with it, mark up the other two corners. Make sure on the last one you've got your tape on the hatch side. More masking tape. Bring it up to that line. And mark that again. Just putting a mark on there for which way the angle needs to go. I'm going to run the inlay the same way as the planks themselves. So what I want to do is I want to cut this down to the width, but I want to accommodate this cross section as well, which I'm actually going to leave a little bit bigger and then trim afterwards. So I'm going to measure from end to end, and that will be my guide on the plank itself. I'll scribe down the width and then just allow a little bit of wastage at the ends. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the inside of this tram line to the edge of that plank. So I actually prefer to use the metal verniers. Put a mark on there so we know where that plank's falling. So I can use these to scratch the surface of the plank itself. So that's my first measurement through there. And just double check, make sure it's okay on this side, and then I'll go to the plank and get that scribed in. Once I've done that, then I'll scribe in the inner width using a piece of offcut. So my measurement from end to end is actually 47.9. So mark that up first. Get that cut down. Then using the calipers, I can now just scratch that. So what the calipers do, they actually raise the surface slightly. Place the straight up against it. You can see there it's literally hitting onto that groove. That allows me to score the surface. So with an SPC I'm only cutting through the wear layer. So that's the overall width I actually needed. I can now take a piece of offcut. I'm going to put that right up against the edge. Put a pencil mark on either side. So what that does is it gives me a little bit extra due to the overall width of the tram line. So once I get it back into the trim, I'll actually have about 5 to 10 mil waste on both ends, which we can trim in afterwards. By marking it, allows me to score it without going into the face of the vinyl itself. Well, now just use the calipers again, measure that size, and again just scribe that in. Then from pencil line to pencil line, cut through the wear layer, then just trim those bits off. Just to get along that pencil line. So depending on the SPC you're working with, it might help to apply a little bit of heat to the surface, just to make it easier to peel off. and place it into the transition. Now that we've got the inlays into the transition, when it comes to actually taking this out, if I put too much pressure on the hatch cover itself, then the adhesive along this transition will eventually give up. One of the best ways of doing it is to take a bit of string, just get it underneath and then lever it up. And just place that back in. You can see there that that hatch cover blends nicely into the floor, just giving it a nice tramline feature around, but also serving a purpose.